Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to call this city council regular meeting of June 9th, 2026 to order.
Mine's on.
Good.
Mine are on.
Okay. Welcome, everyone, those of you who are in attendance and also joining us online. If you would, please join me in standing for the invocation and pledge of allegiance by Mayor Pro Tem Michael McPhee.
If it's your custom to bow, please join us in prayer. Father God, creator of all, we gather today as a community to conduct the business before us. We pause to give thanks for the blessings of freedom and for the privilege we have to assemble and shape our future together. As our nation approaches its 250th anniversary, we reflect on the courage, resilience, and vision of those who came before us. We ask for your continued guidance for our country, that we may remain a land defined by liberty, justice, and opportunity for all. Grant us the grace to treat each other with respect, compassion, and understanding. May our actions this day reflect our commitment to building a stronger, more vibrant community. We place our trust in you and ask for your blessing upon this meeting and upon the United States of America. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You're just sick and tired of my prayers, is that it?
Okay, next on the agenda is our meeting agenda approval. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Okay, next are proclamations. We have a character education proclamation for Karina Desai, Beaufort Middle School. Do I have a motion?
Move acceptance.
Second.
Your motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. Mike, would you please?
I'll be glad to. Whereas the character education movement reinforces the social, emotional, and ethical development of students, and whereas schools, school districts, and states are working to instill important core ethical and performance values, including caring, honesty, diligence, fairness, fortitude, responsibility, and respect for self and others. The 11 principles of effective character education include promoting core ethical and performance values, teaching students to understand, care about, and act upon those core ethical and performance values, encompassing all aspects of the school culture, fostering a caring school community, providing opportunities for moral action, supporting academic achievement, and developing intrinsic motivation, including whole staff involvement, positive leadership of staff and students, and involving parents and community members in assessing the results and striving to improve upon those results. Whereas the purpose of the character education program is to integrate good character traits into the total school environment as well as into the community. And each school's counselor identifies a list of character words and definitions deemed important regardless of the person's political leanings, race, gender, or religious convictions. And those words are friendship, kindness, acceptance, courage, tolerance, respect, gratitude, compassion, citizenship, perseverance, honesty, integrity, self-control, forgiveness, responsibility, and cooperation. And whereas Karina Desai was selected as the winner of Beaufort Middle School as the Student of the Month. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Beaufort, South Carolina hereby proclaims May 2026 as Karina Desai as Beaufort Middle School Student of the Month. The City of Beaufort thereby pronounces responsibility and cooperation as the word of the month for May and applauds Karina Desai, the Beaufort County School District, Beaufort Middle School for their work in specifically honoring Karina Desai as Beaufort Middle School Student of the Month. Congratulations. You're very welcome.
Okay, next we have a proclamation honoring Dr. Stephen R. Wise upon his retirement.
Move acceptance.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Chief.
On a point of personal privilege, Dr. Wise, if you'll come up, please. Dr. Rowland could not be here this evening, but I was with him yesterday afternoon and Saturday afternoon, and he wanted me to impart his personal congratulations and thank yous for all that you have done for the history in Beaufort County. So, whereas Dr. Stephen R. Wise has dedicated decades of distinguished service to preserving and sharing the rich military history and cultural heritage of the United States Marine Corps and the Low Country region. As director of the Parris Island Museum and Cultural Resources Manager at Marine Corps Recruit Depot Parris Island, Dr. Wise has played an instrumental role in safeguarding the legacy of generations of Marines who trained at Parris Island and served our nation with honor. Through his leadership, scholarship, and unwavering commitment to historical preservation, Dr. Wise expanded educational opportunities, strengthened community connections, and enhanced public understanding of the profound significance of Parris Island in American military history. Dr. Wise has earned widespread respect as a historian, author, educator, and steward of our shared heritage, leaving a lasting impact on the Beaufort community, the United States Marine Corps, and countless visitors from around the world. Throughout his tenure, Dr. Wise demonstrated professionalism, integrity, and a passion for service that reflects the very best of public leadership and cultural preservation. The City of Beaufort is proud to recognize Dr. Wise for his remarkable career and to express its sincere gratitude for his many contributions to the preservation of history and the enrichment of our community. Now, therefore, Mayor Cromer and the Council of the City of Beaufort do hereby proclaim an appreciation and congratulations to Dr. Stephen R. Wise upon the occasion of his retirement and extend best wishes for continued health, happiness, and fulfillment in the years ahead. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Unlike Dr. Rowland, I'm not one to talk very much off the cuff. However,
Knew that was safe.
yes, that's why he's not here. But just to show, it was a wonderful time at Parris Island with the museum, and just to show you how everything does change. When I first started, City Council was Fred Washington, Alice Wright, Dr. Bush, Jim Neighbors, and of course, Mayor Henry Chambers. So everything moves on, and hopefully everything will continue to do so and bring good honor and glory to Beaufort and its history. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Okay, next we have a proclamation observing and commemorating Carolina Day.
Move to accept.
And second.
Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Whereas on June 28th, 1776, brave patriots of South Carolina and Continental soldiers from several colonies under the command of Colonel Washington. Hello. That's your fault, Mr. Neely. Wherever you started me with the Washington thing this morning. Sorry. Colonel William Moultrie defended the unfinished Palmetto log fort, Sullivan's Island, against the powerful British naval assault. And whereas the steadfast courage of those defenders, many of them from the Beaufort district who were withstanding a British assault by land to the rear of the fort, secured a decisive victory that preserved Charleston, inspired the American cause, and rallied hope across the colonies. And whereas the victory of Sullivan's Island proved that the desire of freedom could withstand the oppression of tyranny, and that it was followed 1 week later by the adoption of the Declaration of Independence on July 4th, 1776, setting forth the ideals of liberty and self-government that still guide us today. And whereas the people of South Carolina and our nation at large continue to honor the sacrifice, valor, and vision of those who stood firm on that day, marking it as Carolina Day, a commemoration of South Carolina's vital role in the birth of the United States. And whereas it is fitting that our community join in observance of this historic anniversary to remember the courage of the patriots of 1776, to educate future generations about our shared heritage, and to renew our commitment to the enduring principles of liberty and independence. Now, therefore, on the occasion of the 250th anniversary of the Battle of Sullivan's Island, I, Philip E. Cromer, Mayor of Beaufort, do proclaim June 28th, 2026 as Carolina Day in the city of Beaufort. I encourage all citizens to observe this day and those between today and July 3rd as Carolina Days, with appropriate ceremonies, programs, and remembrances honoring the bravery and sacrifice of those who secured our freedom. Congratulations.
Beaufort County 250 Committee joins others in congratulating Dr. Steve Wise for his distinguished career. And your 250 Committee is very appreciative of the proclamation that you've issued in recognition of the Battle of Sullivan's Island, for which Carolina Day is dedicated. We also want to thank you for your appreciation and promotion of the more than 100 battles and skirmishes that occurred in Beaufort County during the American Revolution. Just as Carolina Day recognizes the first sea-based victory by the Patriots in South Carolina, the Battle of Port Royal Island, also known as the Battle of Beaufort on February 3rd, 1779, was the first land-based victory by the Patriots in this great state. We look forward to celebrating that great victory in February 2029. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John. Okay, next we have a proclamation recognizing the 75th anniversary of the Disabled American Veterans, Chapter 12.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Whereas 75 years ago on July 1st, 1951, a small group of just 45 dedicated veterans came together with a shared mission to support and advocate for those who served our nation as Disabled American Veterans, Chapter 12, Beaufort, South Carolina. And whereas through steadfast commitment, compassion, and service, the organization has grown from its original 45 members to more than 1,700 member chapter dedicated to serving veterans, their families, and the community. For 75 years, the members of Disabled Veterans Chapter 12 have worked tirelessly to ensure veterans receive the benefits, care, dignity, and respect they have earned through honorable military service. The organization has made a lasting impact through volunteerism, transportation programs, advocacy, community outreach, and countless hours of service to veterans and their families. The continued growth and success of this chapter reflects the strength, dedication, and patriotism of the members and the trust placed in the organization by the community it serves. This 75th anniversary is a significant milestone honoring decades of leadership, sacrifice, and unwavering commitment to improving the lives of veterans while strengthening the community as a whole. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, Philip Cromer, do hereby recognize and congratulate the members of Disabled Veteran Chapter 12 on the occasion of the 75th anniversary on July 1st, 2026, and extend sincere appreciation for the 75 years of outstanding service to veterans, their families, and the community. Be it further proclaimed that the growth from 45 founding members, to the more than 1,700 members stands as a testament to the organization's enduring mission, dedication, and positive impact on the lives of veterans and citizens alike. Congratulations and happy anniversary.
My name is Larry Baker. I'm the commander of Chapter 12. We have our executive council here. On behalf of all the veterans who started this 75 years ago and to the almost a little bit over 1,700 veterans we have, we're thankful for the city of Beaufort to always support our Chapter 12 and all of our veterans. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, next is public comment. Please limit your remarks to 5 minutes, and if you come to the podium, please give us your name and your address for the record and address those comments to council. And the first I have on the list is Grant McClure.
Hello, my name is Grant McClure. I'm the South Coast Office Director with the Coastal Conservation League, and I live at 1511 Sycamore Street in the city of Beaufort. And here this evening to update the City Council on progress on the regional plastic ordinance that is in the works. Last night, Beaufort County Council passed the single-use plastic ordinance revisions on third and final reading. And as you know, this is being this has been a coordinated regional effort with the idea that the municipalities will then follow suit. And of course, this council has already given first reading to its own version of that language. And we're very thankful for that. And I did want to mention that the county council did make a few small adjustments to that language. Specifically, there was language about non-compliance with the plastic ordinance, justifying a misdemeanor if violations were repeated. And so that was changed to a civil penalty. Additionally, some of the council members felt it was important for the county to be in compliance with its own ordinance. And so that was also amended into the language. Anyways, just wanted to provide that update and encourage the city of Beaufort to adopt those changes, which will take effect after City of Beaufort, Town of Port Royal, Town of Bluffton, and Town of Hilton Head all adopt the same or similar languages. And then there's an 8-month sort of grace period that's baked into the ordinance. And for the public, what this is getting at is eliminating the thick plastic bags, that you find at grocery stores in the area. Also, polystyrene foam to-go boxes and foam cups like you get at Parker's or to go at restaurants. Those would also be regulated. And additionally, you would have your straws and carry-out cutlery available at self-service stations. You can still have plastic straws. You can still have plastic carry-out cutlery. It would just be self-service. So that's it. That's what we're trying to accomplish. The goal is to, extend the operating life of our landfills, to try to reduce the amount of plastic that's entering into the environment, and reduce the amount that we're interacting with, which we know is actually having an effect on human health now as well. So appreciate your time, and again, would encourage the council to move that ordinance forward. And I did have one more thing. We've got 2 volunteer opportunities coming up at the Coastal Conservation League, and would welcome participation. But I have to warn you that you've got to be okay getting a little wet and muddy, because we are going to be installing some manufactured wired reefs around Archers Creek to help shore up the shoreline around the Marine Corps Recruit Depot. So that'll be June 25th and July 10th. For members of the public, if you go to coastalconservationleague.org / I think it's events and volunteering, that's where you can actually register. But we would love to have people come out. It's usually a really great time with DNR and Sustainability Institute coming out and bringing volunteers. So again, that's June 25th and July 10th. So thank you.
Thank you, Grant. Okay, next we have Joe McDermott.
Good afternoon, good evening. Can you hear me okay? Edie Rogers, can you hear me? Testing.
Joe, give us your name and address.
Joe Mack, 1809 Boundary Street. So yeah, so July 4th, this is a sports and recreation update. So July 4th this year, America turns 250. And on October 13th this year, the American Trail Society turns 50. I have lived in Beaufort County for 40 years, and 20 of those years been in the city of Beaufort, starting in 1975 on Boundary Street, right behind the Joyland Motel. I lived in a trailer for 2 weeks before waiting on a house. Washington Park came to life. Many of you that were there for the grand opening, that is the bench capital of the world. They have so many benches. That's a nice park. It's nice to see. I was there on Friday night and we had it to ourselves. We left the first Friday. The American Trail Society, which you have on your agenda in the resolution. So in the way that started, it was in the early 70s. the Appalachian Trail had 700 miles of gaps. And people wanted to walk it, hike it. So one guy went all up and down the East Coast inviting people from trails groups to go in front of this Senate committee up, I think it was in DC. It was a federal Senate committee. Only one person showed up from Florida. Maybe there was a second person or a third person, but the 2 or 3 or 4 of them started that, American Trail Society. So yeah, so we're building trails here in Beaufort, off-road, nature trail. So it's healthy for the community. So yeah, so there was an article in the Island News on sports tourism, kind of like an op-ed by one of the developers in town, Mr. Stewart. That was in not the last issue, but the issue before that. So that was kind of interesting. So, and it was right around the same time that he announced the arts thing going on King Street in Wilmington next to Justice Square. So I've never known Mr. Stewart to be a proponent of sports. So he was on county council along with the other developers in town. And, you know, I've been here a while. So in the 80s, they said the Trask owned half of Beaufort and Dick Stewart owned the other half. And what's changed? So I know half of you aren't exactly showing that you're for sports. Now, I've had a couple of you make comments, half of you, that's kind of just raise an eyebrow. You didn't stand up to the county and certain things. That we don't need any more walls or poison or graveyard decisions. So there's plenty of people walking around Beaufort had poisonous kids at Camp Lejeune. I was one of them. I don't need any more poison. I need my park. Just get out of the way. If you're not for it, just get out of the way. I can't say it any nicer. I'm not cursing up here, so I hope you take it with a little bit of salt. So I mean, if you don't have fire in your belly, I mean, don't point the finger at us. So some of this is obsolete, but you know, hey, this phone, they tell me it's obsolete. I still use it, right? It's not used the way it should be. I'm having issues with it. So we got issues in Beaufort. If you said, hey, what's the good things about Beaufort? What's the bad things? Y'all can figure that out. So, and I'll just leave you with, you know, I told you about my stories, a couple stories in Portland. So what I didn't tell you about that mayor, I told you she didn't have a driver's license. Well, the rumor was she couldn't pass the test. Well, what I read, she passed away. She was a Democrat from Brooklyn. Of course, the whole city of Portland when I lived there was Democrat. I voted for Bush, by the way, back then. That was the first Bush, and I was living in Portland when I just got there. So what I'm trying to tell you is when I read up on her recently, some of the newspaper articles, you know, after she passed away, they talk about her, you know, her mayorship. She had fought for Major League Baseball. I was like, she is not an athletic looking lady. She rode the city bus. She didn't ride a bike. So what are we fighting here for? And so, oh, you're looking at me. I'm not Graham Trask.
Make sure I transfix on your thing.
Okay, so I just don't enjoy public speaking, Mike. So I'll just try to make light. So
Wrap it up real quick if you can.
and that is pretty much it. I mean, if you put up these walls, I mean, you might as well just go slap kids in the face. I mean, so we want, you know, do right and hope that made sense. I did the best I could. And have a good evening.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Felice Lamarca.
Evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Felice Lamarca, 802 Godfrey Street. Thank you for being here and always working so hard on our behalf. And I work very hard on your behalf and the county's behalf as well. I'm constantly looking for ways to save you money. And I brought this to your attention before, and I will continue to probably ad nauseum. But we have in the budget today a page that shows the strategic partners. And I would urge you to look at that list and see if you could trim it. There are some I would eliminate outright. 42,000 can go right back towards the waterfront. And then some of the others trim the budget. And if we continue doing that, I think we'll get the money going and increasing to fix our waterfront, which in my opinion is the single most important attraction to this city. There are many other things we love about Beaufort. I'm not telling everybody about it. And just please take things seriously. I know you do, but you got a nice list there to trim or take out. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Mayor Deckard.
Good evening, Council. Mayor Deckard, 1006 Madrid Avenue, Port Royal. I wanted to talk about the line item for the Beaufort County Economic Development Corporation. In Port Royal, they declined to fund it because they didn't think they were getting the value from the organization, which I agree. And I don't personally believe that the monies, our public monies, are spent wisely through this organization. And I have a question about something specifically that they spent money on, and I'd like to present it to council. So from September 7th, 2022 to July 17th, 2025, the Beaufort Economic Development Corporation paid $14,000 in rent, $400 a month, for a third-party organization, not having anything to do with the Beaufort County Economic Development Corporation. In fact, they were a grant recipient. They had received $75,000, and there was some controversy about this grantee. And in response, these documents were sent to me by somebody that requested them. In response to why the BCEDC paid this $14,000 in rent for a third party, the executive director said, "We received a request on September 9th, 2025, relative to the Blackwoody rent payments. We have checked emails and text. Beyond the record of the payments, there are no documents in response to this request. The BCEDC has consistently kept its total rent payments below the budget amount, below what it was previously paying at Regis, and staff had communicated its partnership with Blackwoody verbally to board members." Now, I know we have a board member on council, the mayor. I'm not putting you on the spot, by the way, but I don't see what the BCEDC's budgeted rent payments, the public money gets it to pay its rent, has anything to do with anybody else. I mean, I personally think if they have an extra $14,000 just laying around to pay some other organization's rent, then they can probably come up with the $42,000 or $45,000 that you all are considering giving them. And I just think it's a really good question. The executive director is apparently here. We have a board member here. I think it's a really good question to ask why the organization would pay a third party's rent. I think it's completely reasonable to ask that question. I had sent these documents to Councilman Scalati, asked him to look at them. I'm sure he can forward them to you, or I can give you all this copy. But I just think it's a reasonable question as you're contemplating this very large budget and thinking of ways that you might be able to cut back and spend money wisely in other areas. Thank you.
Sean, do we have anybody online?
Yes, sir. Mr. Trask has his hand raised.
Okay. Mr. Trask?
Right. Graham Trask, 1211 Bay Street. Phil, can you hear me?
Yes.
Phil? Hey. Are you going to allow for comments on the budget specifically? Is that a public hearing?
No, we had a public hearing back in May.
So you're not going to allow for specific comments on the budget?
other
During-
than council. I wasn't planning on it.
Right.
We had the public hearing. That's what the public hearing was for. And that's what
Right,
public comment is
I
for.
understand, but things have changed and I sure would appreciate an opportunity to do that if you would consider it. But let me, in light of that, let me focus on item J in your new business. I want to draw the public's attention to the minutes. And I hope the public will read them because I have included exhaustive documents about an interaction between the city manager and one of the city council members, which I would characterize as insubordination. I'm not going to read the letter because although it speaks volumes, because I'm going to run out of time. Instead, I'm going to focus on what you're apparently going to talk about under item J and ask some questions, which I hope you will ask, because I know you're not going to answer them in response to my questions. Number one, what is the city manager's current salary? You're, I believe, proposing a salary of $180,000. Is that a raise over what the current salary is? What is the city manager's current car allowance? You're set to approve one for $800 a month. That amounts to $9,600 a year. That's a pretty nice car. The truck that he drives around in, I know does not cost $800 a month. What's the city manager's total compensation when you add in all the other perks and benefits? I assert it's well over $200,000. More pointedly to you guys, since he's your only employee that you manage, what have been the objective key result areas, or put another way, key performance metrics that you guys gave the city manager last year and against which he's been measured? Those need to be made public. Also, to be made public, what were your ratings against those objective key performance metrics? For such a well-paid employee, you must have those objective key performance metrics, and you must have gone through some evaluation. Those need to be made public. Also, what are the areas where the city manager has done really well? I'm sure he's done really well in some things. What are they? And what are the areas in which the city manager needs improvement? We all have areas where we need improvement, and I suspect he does too. Also, what is the city manager's performance? Is there a performance improvement plan for the city manager? Should he be on one? Looking forward, what are the objective key performance metrics which you're going to use to evaluate the city manager over the next 12 months? You got to have them. When will you release all this information? It needs to be public. It needs to be publicly discussed. And then finally, on this aspect, will you hold a workshop where the public can provide feedback on the city manager's performance, as well as give input on the performance metrics which he should be held accountable for the next 12 months? How much time do I have?
You're out. We reached to 5.
Well, Phil, I would respectfully request that you allow people to talk on the budget. It's an important $70 million budget. And there have been some changes that have been made. And I think it's important for residents to provide their input, and I implore you to allow that as a point of order, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else wish to speak before we move on? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, next we go to the minutes of the regular meeting, May 12th, 2026.
Move approved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion, changes? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, next, the minutes of the capital projects quarterly workshop, May 19th, 2026.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, and then lastly, the minutes on work session of May 26th, 2026.
Motion to approve.
And second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, next we move to old business. This is an ordinance to provide the levy of taxes for the city of Beaufort for fiscal year beginning July 1, 2026 and ending June 30, 2027, and to provide for execution of and to put into effect the consolidated budget to provide budgetary control of the city's fiscal affairs. This is
Motion.
in final reading.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion?
I guess we'll have a presentation first.
Oh, yes, that's right. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Scott.
One moment.
Mayor, members of council, citizens of Beaufort, I'm pleased to present the fiscal year 2027 consolidated budget for the city of Beaufort. This budget reflects the continued commitment to fiscal responsibility, investment in our employees, enhancement of public safety, completion of critical infrastructure projects, and preservation of the quality of life that makes Beaufort the best part of the Lowcountry. The FY 27 consolidated budget totals $70.17 million, including $24.4 million in capital projects. The budget maintains the city's overall millage rate at 73.9 mils, while continuing to fund core municipal services, strategic capital investments, and community partnerships that directly benefit our residents. The value of a mill has increased by $21,000 over FY 26. Bringing the total value of a mill to $153,274. This growth in the city's tax base has allowed Beaufort to maintain service levels and continue investing in priorities without increasing the overall millage rate. One of the most significant structural improvements included in this budget is the creation of a dedicated debt service fund. Historically, debt payments were budgeted across multiple funds. Beginning in FY 27, all debt service obligations will be budgeted and accounted for within a single fund, providing greater transparency, improved financial reporting, and a clearer understanding of the city's long-term obligations and debt management practices. This budget emphasizes a commitment to our workforce. City employees remain our most valuable asset and the people responsible for delivering the high-quality services our residents expect every day. The budget includes a 2% cost of living adjustment and an up to 2% merit increase based on performance evaluations. In addition, the city will absorb a 3% increase in health insurance costs, ensuring that rising healthcare expenses do not become an additional burden on employees and their families. These investments reflect our ongoing commitment to recruiting and retaining a talented workforce in an increasingly competitive labor market. Public safety remains the highest of priorities. The budget includes funding for 2 additional Patrolman 3 positions within the police department to support the community response team and further strengthen community policing efforts throughout the city. These positions are partially offset through a federal COPS hiring grant, allowing us to leverage outside funding while expanding services to residents. Also included is funding for replacement police vehicles, updated department weapons, a drug spectrometer, firefighter self-containing breathing apparatus equipment, and ongoing investments in emergency response capabilities. The FY27 budget continues the city's commitment to maintaining high-quality municipal services while minimizing impact to residents. Despite increasing contractual costs associated with solid waste collection, the residential sanitation fee will remain unchanged at $270 annually. The city will absorb those increases rather than passing them directly to residents. Significant investments are also planned for infrastructure and community assets. The Capital Projects Fund includes more than $24 million in projects supported by grants, partnerships, transfers, and previously committed resources. Among the most significant investment is continued funding to restore public access to the relieving platform at Henry C. Chambers Waterfront Park, one of our most recognizable and cherished public spaces. Funding is also included to continue major drainage improvements and advance other long-term infrastructure priorities throughout the city. Of particular note, the budget further advances the long-awaited next phase of the Duke Street Streetscape project. Through a combination of ARPA funds, committed redevelopment reserves, utility participation, and capital projects funding, the city has assembled the resources necessary to move this transformative project toward completion in the coming fiscal year. For years, residents have expressed a desire to see meaningful improvements in the 1600 block of Duke Street, and this budget enables a path to completion. The budget also preserves the city's commitment to strategic community partnerships. Funding remains in place for organizations and initiatives that contribute to economic development, tourism, public transportation, military affairs, workforce development, and community enrichment. During budget deliberations, City Council reaffirmed its support for partners such as the Beaufort Digital Corridor and the Military Enhancement Committee, among others, recognizing the value these organizations provide to the community. The budget includes $150,000 for the Housing Repair Assistance Program, representing a 50% increase over the city's FY26 funding commitment. Through our partnership with the Beaufort Jasper Housing Trust, these local dollars are leveraged through matching funding opportunities, expanding the program's reach and allowing additional qualifying homeowners to remain safely in their homes while preserving the character and the stability of Beaufort's neighborhoods. Assembling this budget required difficult decisions and careful prioritization. Early in the process, identified departmental needs significantly exceeded available revenue projections. Through collaboration among staff and city council, expenditures were reduced, priorities were reevaluated, and funding sources were carefully aligned to produce a balanced budget without increasing the overall millage rate. While this budget funds many important initiatives, not every need could be accommodated. A number of personnel requests, capital projects, and equipment purchases remain unfunded and are identified in the unfunded requirements list that accompany the budget. These items will continue to inform future budget discussions as revenues, grants, and other funding opportunities become available. This budget reflects a deliberate balance between addressing today's needs and preparing for tomorrow's opportunities. It invests in its employees, strengthens public safety, maintains essential services, advances major infrastructure projects, supports our community partners, and preserves the financial stability necessary to meet future challenges. I would like to thank the mayor and city council for their guidance throughout the budget process, as well as Finance Director Alan Eisenman, the Finance Department, and all of our other department directors across the organization for their diligence and their professionalism throughout the process. Their collective efforts have produced a budget that is both fiscally responsible and strategically focused on the city of Beaufort's future.
Thank you. All right. Anyone from council wish to comment?
If there's another comment, I can wait. Is there anybody else who wants to comment?
Is there any more discussion on the budget?
Well, we'd be happy to take you through the budget if you'd like, or we could entertain
Might as well
questions
for the
now,
benefit
so.
of the public.
Okay. So as you can see, the FY '26 adopted budget was $73.1 million. The revised budget for FY '26, that's this year, is $75.2 million approximately. This FY '27 budget that we are presenting for your consideration at second reading is $3 million less than the FY '26 adopted budget, and it's $5 million less than the FY '26 revised budget. A lot of this information was covered in my opening remarks, but I would like to highlight a few items once again. Our millage rate continues to be flat at 73.9 mils. The value of a mill has increased from last year by $21,000. Our capital projects budget, which is not counted as part of our operating budget, is $24.4 million. And again, we have increased the amount we have put toward our housing repair assistance program by 50% to $150,000. This budget also contains a 2% COLA for city employees, an up to 2% merit increase based on performance evaluation, and it absorbs a 3% increase in healthcare costs, so we don't pass that burden on to the employees. These features are included to help us keep pace with the labor market competitors and to ensure we remain an employer of choice in the city of Beaufort. It contains funding for our strategic partners. Beaufort County Economic Development Corp., $42,000. Palmetto Breeze, $102,778, which are matching funds for a federal transportation grant. Beaufort Digital Corridor is funded at $100,000. Beaufort Jasper Housing Trust is $183,197, which reflects both our annual financial commitment plus the $150,000 in home repair assistance funds. The Convention and Visitors Bureau, which is the Visit Beaufort Port Royal Sea Islands organization, is our designated DMO, and by statute and by ordinance, our projection for them is $402,500. The Military Enhancement Committee is funded at $15,000. The South Coast Cyber Center is funded at $45,000 using funds that were earmarked years ago by the state specifically for cybersecurity use. The Pritchard Island Research Living Shores is granted $5,000 under this budget, as is the South Carolina Nursing Initiative. What's new in the budget for FY '27? Well, 2 new positions. We have 2 patrolmen, 3 positions for the police department. They are not funded for the entire year. They're only funded for part of the year. They are part of a 3-position grant, but we are deferring the 3rd position until FY '28. We're also including a $1,000 annual short-term rental license fee. And as I've said in my comments, we're establishing a debt service fund to budget and record our debt payments all in one fund for easier access and transparency. What you see here are the amendments that were made to the budget at first reading on May 12th. Following that meeting, and through discussions with legal counsel about whether we could use our TIF2 funds and projects that were outside the TIF district, we were advised that the TIF should have been dissolved nearly 10 years ago. This means we cannot use these funds. Thus, they are no longer in play for the FY '27 budget. So we held a workshop on May 26th. And throughout the course of the workshop, to the staff's best understanding, we have incorporated the agreed upon amendments that were discussed in that workshop. They addressed the general fund deficit of $322,000 that was created by removing the vehicle tag fee revenue, as well as the new reality of not having the TIF2 fund as a revenue source. In my opinion, it was a very productive workshop, and it resulted in a series of modifications, again, that were generally agreed upon by council. Being required to bring the budget for adoption in final form allows for these changes to be reflected in the budget as presented tonight on second reading. These are a summary of some of the changes that were made as a result of the amendments. As you can see, we deferred the 3rd officer from the COPS grant to FY '28. We have a deputy police chief position, which we will leave vacant for all of FY '27. We have a building inspector position, again, that we will not fill. It will be on the books, but it will remain unfunded. We were originally planning to outsource our comprehensive plan or much of our comprehensive plan process. But we believe we can do most of that in-house, so that gives us another adjustment. We also re-engaged with our GIS provider, InterDev, who agreed to make some concessions and change orders to the current contract, which results in a savings of about $53,000. And some other changes that we agreed upon were restoring Beaufort Digital Quarters funding back to $100,000. If you recall, it was $75,000 on first reading. And to increase the Military Enhancement Committee back to $15,000. Again, it was $10,000 on first reading. The FY '27 budget as presented includes a release of Parks and Tourism fund balance of $34,800. It also includes, the changes that were made also include removing the Placer AI subscription. That's the software package for downtown operations to track movement of personnel. We removed the 8 new trash cans that were planned for the social district. We removed story sprints by Phil Eric telling the stories of people of our downtown. That saves $12,000. We removed a four-passenger side-by-side utility vehicle for downtown operations. And we put that money back into the TDAC tourism grant allocation process, where we allocate ATAX funds for organizations. We agreed on a release of general fund, committed fund balance in the amount of $800,000 to transfer that into the general fund so we could use it to make needed renovations to our headquarters fire station. Our headquarters fire station currently cannot accommodate our newest ladder truck. We need to raise the bay in there a little bit. There is also a possibility of a partnership with the county whereby through agreement with them, the fire station is modified and expanded to include capability for an EMS response unit to respond from there versus out of Depot Road. There are some IT switches in the police department that are beyond their service life, and we see those as must fund, so those are funded in the second reading of the budget. Again, this has to do with removing the TIF2 budgeted revenues and expenditures. Same. This is how we get to the funding for the Duke Street project. Releasing $280,000 from general fund through partnership with Beaufort Jasper Water Sewer Authority. They are making Act 36 funds available in the amount of $428,000. We are transferring in additional funds from the general fund and from the ARPA fund to get to the amount we need for that project. Before I turn it over to Alan for the fine print, if you will, I'm willing to entertain any questions council might have of me. I'll also remain close by.
Okay, any questions from council? Let's start, Councilman Mitchell.
I have one. Could you share the status of the TIF2 funds that we had collected? But I guess now is, I'm not clear on exactly, what their status is, where they are, and what might happen to them.
So the TIF2 funds that were collected, in working with our bond attorney, we determined the amount that we believe they should be offered to have refunded to them, our partners in the TIF process, which are the school district and Beaufort County. We have sent letters to each of those entities explaining to them that the TIF fund is resolved, and this is their share of the balance of the TIF funding that remains. But we have also, in that same breath, asked each organization if we could be allowed to retain those funds for the sole purpose of putting them toward waterfront park construction. We do not have an answer back on that. I understand that the school district is discussing that in executive session this evening. I don't know what the result of that will be. And I do not, to my knowledge, county council has not yet considered this. So that's where we are with those funds. And
Thanks.
it's approximately 1.8 million to the school district and about 800,000 to Beaufort County.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Also, as far as the STRs, the 242 up to 269, all that's doing is just bringing the neighborhoods that haven't reached their cap up to the cap, correct?
Correct. That's my understanding, Councilman.
Okay.
Councilman Scaletta, you had.
Yeah, just one question for you, Scott, real quick. What was lost or changed in the GIS contract whenever that was readjusted?
The particular line items, I don't have the change order in front of me now. I know they reduced their pricing overall, and I think they reduced some levels of supervision above that GIS technician to account for some of that savings.
Okay, but none of the GIS portals that we currently depend on?
No,
for-
there will be no diminished service as a result of this. All of the service features we have in the contract will remain.
Got it. Thanks.
Anyone else? Thank you, Scott. You want to have Alan come forward?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll give a little deeper dive into the budget, the $70.1 million budget. The revenue, projected revenue sources still stay the same. 42% of it is capital project fund and 35% is mostly from grants that we have. And the expenses, capital expenditures make about 36% of the 24.4 capital project fund, and then salaries and personnel includes 30% of the recommended budget. Here's an overall breakdown of the revenues by funds. You'll notice that the TIF2 fund has been removed, but for this fiscal year 27, but the historical information still remains just for comparable information. The manager has already kind of hit the highlights as far as the millage rate remains the same and the short-term rental of $1,000. Here's a broken down expenditure budget by fund, by the various categories: salaries, benefits, operations, capital, debt, and transfers out. We'll go into a little more detail with each fund. High levels, city manager covered, I think, most of these items. For salaries and benefits, for operations, he is about 12.6 million across all the various funds through the city. And then our debt is now featured in one fund, the debt service fund. As far as the general fund and the revenues, on property tax, you'll see a slight decrease, but that's because the debt millage, 1.65 million is moved to our debt service fund. So overall property values increase about 1.5 million. And licenses, which includes business licenses, you'll see a decrease of $131,000. That's a combination of $400,000 less for business license, mostly because of the MASC collections, and then also an increase of the short-term rental license of $269,000, shows that net decrease of $131,000. We're anticipating a decrease of building permits about $200,000 due to some of the large developments that were recognized in previous years. Charges for services includes the residential garbage fee. We did take out the tag fee from the first reading. And franchise fees, you'll see the increase of that, about $75,000 from Dominion and projecting about $141,000 from Dominion. Intergovernmental revenue, most of the increase is associated with the Town Port Royal Fire Services contract due to the compensation study results. And then we had a issuance of a fire truck lease back in fiscal 26. So we show that as zero in fiscal 27. We're showing using fund balance for vehicles and equipment, about $460,000. That includes police weapons, police drug spectrometer, fire department, SCBAs, self-contained breathing apparatuses, $75,000 for streetlight upgrades, and also the new $94,000 for PDIT switches, which is now part of the IT budget within our general fund. And we also are using redevelopment fund balance, $655,000 for the Duke Street project, and $800,000 for the fire station is coming from our fund balance for capital projects. And all those have sufficient fund balances from last fiscal years to cover those amounts. And property taxes, you see budgeted 9.8 million, but also when you factor in the debt service, debt millage as well, that number goes up to about 11.5 million, and also due to increase of mill value. Here's a further breakdown of property taxes. They make up 34% of our total revenues. You'll see increases of our assessed value for real and personal property, as well as vehicle taxes as well. The overall overall millage remains the same. We are using an increase of 1.5 mil for operating, which is 2.5% for our millage cap. We do have a pretty large amount of a 3-year look back for millage cap of about 17.3%. Debt mill is going down 1.5 mil to 11.1. We're still keeping that 2 reserve mill. So overall millage is 73.9. We've went over some of the significant revenues.
Alan, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Can I back you up to that page? Go back one more. Yep, right there. So quick question for you, just a point of clarification for myself, down toward the bottom there, second bullet, recommend maintaining the 2 reserve mill and including the operating mill to continue fund aging infrastructure. Is the aging infrastructure fund the same as our capital project fund, or are they separated?
Yes, within our general fund, we have it as one of our fund balance categories, kind of designated for infrastructure. And that carries about, right now, I think about $1.5 million.
But those 2 are one fund, right? The capital projects and then the aging infrastructure?
No, aging infrastructure is within our general fund.
So it's a separate fund entirely from everything else, is the aging infrastructure?
It's within our general fund. So as part of that, it's just part of our kind of our fund balance, one of our committed.
But it's accounted for separately?
Yeah, we show it separately on our financials. It's just one of our different buckets committed for fund balance within our general fund.
Okay. Which obviously does provide the parameters to ensure that it doesn't get spent inside the general fund unless it's for the guided reasons for aging infrastructure, right?
Right, yeah,
Okay.
we can always transfer that money back or transfer that money out to like a capital project. So that would go out to a capital project fund to fund some kind of a project that we may need, or we could use it for infrastructure going forward.
Okay.
Anyone else?
That's your question.
Thank you.
Okay, expenditures shows the total recommended budget 29.8 million. And we'll have a breakdown by department. Non-departmental includes most of our economic partnerships, and also includes transfers out for the fire station, also for the Duke Street project, and also for some of our debt service amounts as well. And then city council will see the increase, about $100,000 is due to legal fees. City manager increase mostly attributed to having a full year of a records manager position, and also half a year of the CIP director as the ARPA funds ends in December 31st of this year. Yeah.
Could you say again what you said about the operation? I'm sorry, thank you. I have a cold, so I didn't want to be coughing into the mic. My apology. Could you say again what you said about the operations fund, that 43.58% increase for city council?
Yeah, that's related to legal fees. We had a higher than the normal legal fees, so we're budgeting a little more accurately. for those. That's where that's,
Because I noticed everything else kind of stayed almost the same.
yeah,
and
everything
that
stayed the
was-
same, but
All right, thank you.
well. Then for finance department, just slight increases due to compensation and the 2% COLA. The information technology does now include the $94,800 for the PD IT switch upgrades is now in that capital line item for information technology, along with some of the adjustment that we will make for the GIS contract. Kind of hit some of the highlights. Community development, you'll see decrease in personnel. That's because we're keeping that business, the building inspector position vacant. For the police department, that includes the 2 new patrolmen, 3 positions funded by the cops hiring grant with a hiring date of October 1st. And also includes some of the capital needs as well, as I've already mentioned. Within the fire department, includes the $48,000 for the SCBAs. And also some of the personnel increases is due to the compensation study. And then you'll see a big decrease in capital outlays. That's because we purchased that fire truck back in fiscal year 26. That's showing most of that decrease. And also our debt got moved out to our debt service fund. Then public works includes $75,000 for streetlight upgrades. And then also includes a $100,000 for excavator, which is split between our general fund, our parks and tourism fund, and our stormwater fund. And then you see our geo debt all got moved to our debt service fund. And we hit most of these highlights. As far as salaries, operations, and capital. Next, we'll move to our parks and tourism fund. Well, I show a slight or increase for hospitality taxes, but also a decrease for accommodation taxes. Just kind of shows a little trend. Hospitality accommodations. And then Parks and Tourism Fund. We have different departments within our Parks and Tourism Fund. Our Parks Department is one of them. That the operating includes $200,000 for facility maintenance, which includes $80,000 for monthly security for cameras at parks. And we also have that capital breakdown, the excavator showing at $33,000. You'll see the police support, tourism marketing, marina, and waterfront park. And then downtown operations includes our festivals, Taste of Beaufort and Shrimp Festival events. Then our transfers out includes the debt associated with our waterfront park and the Parks and Tourism revenue bond, along with some of our capital projects as well. $925,000 for the waterfront park, and then $111,000 for Marina A and D dock, the capital project fund. And next is our stormwater fund. We're still keeping the stormwater utility fees remain the same, so we're keeping the revenue for that line item the same. And then we're showing transfers out for our stormwater bond payments, and then we're using some of our stormwater bond funds for our capital projects for Bayard Street and for their Pigeon Point drainage study, kind of our local match for that. Our impact fees, I'm showing decrease in revenues as some of those larger developments some of the revenue was received in previous years. And then the expense side, showing our debt payment as a transfer out. The state aid tax, state accommodation tax, shows a slight decrease of revenues for projected for state accommodation tax revenue. And also shows transferred out, shows a breakdown for our capital projects for Arsenal Walls, and that's also the Arsenal Windows project. Our ARPA fund, which will be finishing up at the end of this calendar year, shows money used for the Duke Street project, over $1 million. debt service fund, which is our newly created fund, shows our property taxes of 1.6 million, and then transfers in from various funds, and then our debt payments associated with that. Here's a broken down salaries by department. So overall salaries increased by $973,000 or 6.7%. And then benefits increased $308,000 or 5.3%. There's our FTE count showing the two new positions in the police department. We'll move to our capital project fund. We have mostly grant funded for these projects. Overall, 24.4 million. Here's our funding sources. We did add the partnership for BJWSA for the Duke Street, $428,000. Here's our broken down by grants for our drainage projects and also some of the FEMA monies that we have. And transfers in, show money from various general fund or various funds, general funds, stormwater bond funds, Parks and Tourism revenue bond, and some of our fund balance from Parks and Tourism, ARPA, and state aid tax. There's our partnership for Act 36 for the Duke Street project, $428,000. And here's our updated expenditures by our different projects. Overall shows 24.4 million. And here's a breakdown of those 24.4 million by the various funds. You'll see that we took out the TIF2 fund altogether. And we revised our unfunded requirements list from the first reading. We now have the COPS hiring grant, that one position there. And then we see some more public safety positions, as well as some other positions throughout the city. And capital equipment, have some public safety items here, and then also some public works as well. Then our capital projects with Henry C. Chambers, Waterfront Park being the first one, and then some of our other capital projects that we are not able to fund at this time, but definitely are keeping an eye out for funding sources and other funding mechanisms going forward. Happy answering questions you may have for either city manager or
Questions for Alan? Good.
No questions, but I do have a couple of comments.
Okay. You have the floor.
First, I want to thank staff, finance department, Scott, for being patient throughout this process and showing a willingness to compromise on some things that we may see different. You know, when we originally saw the proposed budget, my first thought was back to my commitment to be a responsible steward and the fact that I did not want to increase taxes really ever. But I think that we do better focusing on how do we work within our means. And I think that what this budget proposal does, while I am not in agreement with everything that we're spending money on, one of those things we discussed in the work session, and that was the Economic Development Corporation. I've said for 2 years now that I question the reason for why we commit $42,000 a year there. Hearing further concerns about third parties' rents that are paid even lead me to believe that we have room to shave that down. But I'm going to operate in good faith that the discussion that we had at the work session was that with all of our strategic partners, we can establish an agreement that allows for us as a city to help fund an initiative that we feel is important for our future, but also have an agreement that creates a sunset and a back door for us to eventually get away from that, reposition and utilize those funds elsewhere. While at the same time offering a level of predictability for all parties involved, for us and for our partners, so that there's not just a rug pull on the funding that's provided whenever a new council decides that that's not the direction to go in. So I'm going to operate in good faith that we will see those agreements come to fruition in this next year. A couple of things, there are going to be, and not to violate our gentleman's agreement that we had at our work session, but there are some things in the master fee schedule, which is not up here, that I would like to draw your attention to. Some of these are just questions that I have in regards to the justification that produces these fees. The first one is on page 176, and it is in relation to the park rental fee. Specifically, the example that I'll use is the park rental fee for Southside. On the first one, the pavilion, if you want to rent the pavilion for a 4-hour block, it is $100. So $25 an hour. And then if you want to rent it for a 6-hour block, it is $400. So that is a substantial increase for an additional 2 hours. And I'm not sure what the justification is there, but I guess I'll say in principle, this is what I want to be careful of. I want to be careful that our fee schedule does not restrict or move the public facility outside of what is affordable for some of our partners who may say they want to plan to utilize the park and have a festival for the kids or a birthday party there. And I know that at least my understanding of renting these parks out is you have the exclusivity of that portion that you rent. But I just want to make sure that our fees are reasonable and that they remain affordable. And so there's a justification attached to them. I'm not going to make a motion to amend that, but I would just request that we look at our fee schedule a little bit closer and make adjustments where we can in that regard. And since we haven't discussed that particular item, I'm not going to make a motion on that. On page 183, I'm not sure I understand on the inspection fees, the value of having if you're going to have a swimming pool inspected, single family home, $235 with $200 to be refunded after the pool inspection has been performed and approved. I'm not sure why you would do that. If you're going to pay $235 just to get $200 back, why not pay $35 for the initial inspection? And if you have to get it re-inspected, maybe pay an additional fee. But it just seems a little bit more complicated than it needs to be to have somebody pay $235 only to give them $200 back. I'd like to look at that and maybe clean it up a little bit. On page 184, this is a motion that I intend to make because it is something that we have discussed. In fact, we discussed it whenever we made our code changes back in July of last year. But if you look at page 184, the tree removal fees, on the replacement and mitigation schedule, you have a mitigation cost of $350 per caliper inch for landmark trees. But below in the example, you have the reflected price at $500 an inch. I know that that is just an example, but I think that for the sake of continuity and cleanness, that our approved landmark removal example needs to reflect the chart right above it and not be different. It's a very easy change to make, and so I do plan on making a motion to change that, and I don't see why there would be any conflict there. I am going to make a motion that we reduce this fee because this is a conversation that I've had with Scott before. And I don't think that we see permits to the degree of unbalancing this budget, if you will. But on page 185, the temporary tent canopy permits, a temporary tent or canopy over 400 square foot is $250. And I think that this is one of those things for me is hard to justify, but in light of us increasing the cost for fire and police to be at some of our nonprofit organized events, this moves into a realm that becomes challenging to fund. And so I'm going to ask that we reduce that fee. I think maybe $150 is appropriate, but I just don't know the justification for why we would have a $250 fee attached to a tent permit. If anything, it's over 400 square feet. On page 187, I I'm not sure I can justify why the ZBOA application fee is $300. If I, as a resident, want to approach the ZBOA to maybe have a shed inside of a setback, whether that's a 10-foot or a 5-foot setback, I've got to pay $300 to go before the ZBOA just to find out if I can get that approval or not. If I am a commercial developer looking to approach the HDRB for a multifamily complex, I pay $100. So I'm not sure why we charge so much more for the ZBOA fees, but I'm going to ask that we reduce that probably to $100. Seems reasonable to me. What you're looking at in those applications generally seem to be a lot less intuitive than what you would look at for a multifamily building. So a lot more taxing on the board, if you will. So those are small things, and then I will not make this motion tonight in regards to the 2 mil reserve for aging infrastructure, but I will use the opportunity to reiterate the point that I feel like we should be setting aside more for aging infrastructure because we are so far behind on a lot of the things that we need to get done. And so setting aside $300,000-ish a year does not seem like enough. I would rather see us commit a little bit more, but I also know that that may require some other changes. And so I don't think that it's appropriate to do that at this time, but I just want to bring it up as a point again. I think it's something, whether that's 3 mil, 4 mil, 5 mil, as high as we can reasonably go to make sure that we're best prepared, is to our benefit. So I will say that, and then Scott, if I pass it to you, if you have any comments on any of the things that I suggested and any maybe reasons for why you don't think it would be appropriate to make the amendment to the ZBOA fee, the adjustment to make accurate the tree mitigation example, and reducing the tent permit fee.
The tree mitigation issue is a Scrivener's error. That's easily done, doesn't require an amendment. We can just do that. I would like to respectfully request that, and there's a good reason for it, that we entertain the amendments to the fee schedule in a separate session. And the reason is the budget has to be presented and adopted in its final form. And so if we make these amendments tonight, we'll have to bring this budget back to you again. And quite frankly, I would like to look into the reason why some of these fees are the level that they are. I would like to be able to tell you they're too high or they're too low, but I simply don't know until we peel it back and take a look at it and compare it with the market rate and that kind of thing. So respectfully, I would like to request that I have taken notes on all of this, as has Alan. And I would like to request that we come back and revisit this with council, and we can always amend the fee schedule after the budget is adopted, if that's acceptable.
Fair enough. I'll withhold on those.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you, Scott. I'm going to entertain some public comment just briefly. Does anyone have any comment to make?
We have a hand
Budget.
raised online as well, Mayor.
I know you're on there, Graham. I'm just asking people who are here.
5-minute limit.
Okay, Graham, you've got 5 minutes.
Thank you, sir. Phil, I appreciate you doing this, and there clearly are a lot of changes, and it's important that the public understands what's going on. So I'd like to point out some things for the public. I know there's a rush to get this budget passed. First, I want to applaud Scott for not raising property taxes. I am shocked, but pleasantly so. So that should be one of those things that you've done well during your evaluation. I'm wondering, I want to talk about some other big items. This TIF funds, 2.6 million. Are you telling me 2.6 million has now disappeared out of the city's control, and 2.6 million now needs to be given back to the school district and to the county? I think there needs to be some questions asked and accountability requested for what happened. $800,000 on a fire station renovation. So we're going to spend $800,000 on a fire station renovation to raise the bay so that the fire brigade can accommodate a truck, which clearly they bought without thinking about whether it could be accommodated in the firehouse. And so now we need to spend $800,000 to renovate the firehouse, and the waterfront's fallen into the Beaufort River. Question. Your partners, if you add up all that money, that's $1 million that you're given to Beaufort County BC EDC, Beaufort Jasper Housing Trust, Visit Beaufort. I want to do some research into whether it is actually required by statute to just burn money with Visit Beaufort, because it is truly just burning money. But that's $1 million. That's a lot. Let me move on. Let's look at our Parks and Tourism Fund. $8 million. $8 million. 1.7 on police operations, waterfront park operations, $600,000, Parks Department, 1.7 million, other downtown operations, 900,000. By the way, I've just, Scott, for your information, and I think you know, I've asked for a detailed budget of your downtown operations. I haven't heard. I haven't received it. No one's answered the question. I guess you can say I have to FOIA it, but why don't the people just give it out? That's $1 million, it appears. Well, $8 million can go a long way in rebuilding the waterfront park, but it seems to me we're just spending. State Accommodations Fund, $1.3 million. Again, just giving money to quote unquote partners. Any opportunity to redirect that to the waterfront park? The marina. Apparently, you got to spend $35,000 on operations for the marina, and Alan said you're going to have to spend another $100,000 on docks. How much money are we making from that marina? Who's making all the money? Those are rhetorical questions because you guys know the answer. But these are really big questions, which I think need to be answered. I know they're not going to be answered tonight because you're going to go ahead and pass this budget. But I really, really implore you guys to answer these questions and look at this budget once it's been passed. And I would implore citizens who are listening to talk with your city council members about these huge numbers which are just being spent. Thank you, Phil. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome, Graham. Okay.
Mayor, may I make one comment on, and this is kind of just dovetailing into one of the things that Graham just said. I'm not going to answer many of those, but one comment that he made in regards to the detail of the budget, I think is important. And this goes back to a comment that I made at first reading. For me, when I first got on council looking at the budget summaries, what happened was, since I wasn't familiar with looking at a budget, it raised more questions than answers, and I didn't have the details for it. It led me to request an itemized, detailed breakdown of every expenditure which the city has and which Scott has provided each year since that time. And it has been very helpful for me. And in fact, I spend less time looking at the budget summary and more time looking at the itemized expenditures so that I can see every dollar in, every dollar out, identify maybe any redundancy, categorize, at least in my mind, what is essential, what is non-essential. And I would just advocate again that we, even if it's after adoption, but that we provide a detailed itemized breakdown of the expenditures, whether it's living online somewhere, but that's publicly accessible without the need to FOIA, because I can understand why it may cause some complications if you do that prior to the budget being passed. But I would at least think that at minimum, we should provide that level of detail afterward so that there can be citizen review and input leading into the next year's budget. There's a lot of people out there that are smarter than any of us up here. And so maybe giving them a crack to look at the budget and say, hey, you guys, did you know that you were spending money over here when this service is already provided over here? Or maybe we can do without this in order to make sure that we have funding for that. But I would, again, take this opportunity to encourage council and staff to put that detailed budget expenditure list online for public review. Thank you.
That can be done.
Call for the question.
Okay, I'm going to call the question. This is for an ordinance to provide for the levy of taxes for the city of Beaufort for fiscal year beginning July 1, 2026 and ending June 30, 2027. Provide for the execution of and put into effect the consolidated budget to provide budgetary control of the city's fiscal affairs. Okay, any other discussion before we vote? Hearing none. All in favor of the ordinance signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All agree, so we're good. Okay, next is an ordinance to approve the sale of city-owned property at 2153 Boundary Street. This is second reading.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Scott?
Mayor and council, as a reminder, this is second reading of an ordinance to sell approximately a half-acre lot at 2153 Boundary Street. It used to be the home of those who have lived here long enough. It was the home of the former Cafino's drive-through coffee house. It was appraised in June of 2025 for $260,000. The purchase price on the purchase and sale agreement that we are requesting your consideration of to allow staff to enter into with the buyer is for an amount of $390,000. The rest of the details with regard to the sale are listed in the staff report itself. The first reading had no questions or comments to my recollection, but I'm willing to entertain any questions you may have.
Questions for Scott regarding the property? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of the ordinance to approve the sale of this property signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Okay, next, under new business, a resolution recognizing National Trails Month and celebrating the Spanish Moss Trail.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Does someone want to?
You want to read it
Brief.
and do the presentation? Yeah,
Let me start reading.
you're going to do the presentation, aren't you?
Yeah, I'll do the presentation.
You hit it.
Okay. Whereas trails provide important opportunities for recreation, exercise, transportation, tourism, environmental appreciation, and community connection. And the month of June is nationally recognized as Great Outdoors Month and includes National Trails Day, celebrate annually to encourage the use, enjoyment, and preservation of trails. Excuse me, just lost my place here. Enjoyment of preservation of trails and outdoor spaces, and the Spanish Moss Trail has become one of the premier recreation amenities in the Beaufort region, connecting residents and visitors alike to the natural beauty, history, and character of the Lowcountry. And the Spanish Moss Trail promotes healthy lifestyles, alternative transportation, outdoor recreation, and economic activity while enhancing quality of life throughout the region. And the continued growth and success of the Spanish Moss reflects the vision, dedication, and partnership of community leaders, volunteers, local governments, and supporters in the Friends of the Spanish Moss Trail Organization. And whereas the city of Beaufort recognizes the importance of preserving and expanding the access to safe, scenic, and accessible trails for the current and future generations. Now therefore it be resolved by the mayor and the city of the City Council of the City of Beaufort, South Carolina, in meeting duly assembled, that the City Council hereby recognizes June 2026 as National Trails Month in the City of Beaufort, and encourages residents and visitors to enjoy and support the many recreational and environmental benefits trails provide. Be it further resolved by the City Council proudly celebrates the Spanish Moss Trail as a premier recreational regional trail and applauds the organization, volunteers, and community partners whose continued efforts have made the trail an enduring asset to the Beaufort region and best part of the Low Country. Done and ratified in meeting duly assembled this 9th day of June, 2026. Congratulations.
I'd like to thank you, Mayor and Council. For those in the audience who don't know, my name is Joe DeVito. I serve as chairman of the Friends of the Spanish Moss Trail. I've been associated with that group since before it was even in existence and part of getting it to where it is now. I can't thank you enough for this resolution. The trail is so important to the community. It is my honor and pleasure to accept this for the entire community that gets to use this trail. You, the City of Beaufort, have been a great supporter, a great partner with us. We've worked very well together in the public-private partnership that should create these types of public amenities. And we are so proud to be part of this city and be able to do this trail. We look forward to the future and to see where we go. As you know, some of you, we have lots of grandiose ideas on what we can do. There's more to be done, and we're not going to stop just yet. I hope all of you get an opportunity and everybody in the city gets an opportunity to come visit the trail. If anybody wants a little tour or wants to know more about it, just reach out to the friends and we'll certainly help you. Thank you again for this, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Joe. Is that an 11-mile tour?
What?
Okay.
Get the old pedal bikes and I'll ride you down it.
Okay.
Right now, 22 round trip.
Okay, next we have a request to host the 4th of July celebration in Henry C. Chambers Waterfront Park on Saturday, July 4th, 2026 from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Kids Parade, city and SCDOT road closures, and partial use of 500 Carteret Street parking lot.
So moved.
Second, okay. Jennifer?
So in lieu of, we do have our July 3rd, First Friday, but in addition to that with 250 that's coming up, that we do a 4th of July celebration in the park. So it's been brought to us by some merchants downtown that we have a event down there to bring the kids down there before Port Royal starts their items. So we're not stepping on their toes as well. So we're going to include a kids parade starting at 500 Carteret, lining up at 8:30, have them step off at 9. They will be going down Scott Street, turning right on Bay Street and left on West Street into the park. The park will have nonprofit organizations and some other organizations there that will be doing prizes and games. We will also have prizes and games, a DJ, and to bring the 4th of July community together. So we're asking to use part of 500 Carteret to line up the kids to do that, probably closer to the gravel area so we can step off right onto Scott Street. Part of Scott Street is owned by the city, part is owned by SCDOT, so that's why we're here to ask for a little bit of that closure, and we know it's late. So, because this is a last minute thing that came to us within the last couple weeks. So we also want to utilize part of Bay Street while it's still closed for the firecracker run to get the kids turning on right on Bay and the left of the park. So that's at the same time that area is closed. We will not be intruding on the bridge closure at all. That will still open up as normal as it would be. And then we'll conclude about 1 o'clock, get it all cleaned up, give everyone a nap to go home and get some rest, and then go out to see fireworks and whatever else they want to do on 4th of July, since it's a Saturday.
Have you notified the merchants along Scott Street?
We have not yet worked. We're waiting for this to be approved first before we say we are doing it, but we have talked to the community, and we do have a community rep from Southern Sweets that is spearheading this at the community level
Okay,
downtown.
great.
Any other Questions or comments?
I'll only make a comment, no question. I'm in favor of this. But this is just a comment in regards to one of the things that you said about not interfering with something that Port Royal is planning. And I know that we've talked about, making sure that there's some differences there, but in my mind, for an event like this, one-day event on July 4th, they're gonna do what they're gonna do, and we're gonna do what we're gonna do. I don't know why we would need to restrict or box ourselves into an event that we're planning in Bay Street based on what Port Royal may or may not be doing on that day. If this was a reoccurring event, like say, the farmer's market, for example, then I would understand why we would want to be very delicate about not competing with what they're doing and taking from their success. But in this regard, I wouldn't see an issue if we had overlap in times for their events and our events. An example of that is just this last weekend, we had a music festival downtown and it was packed, and they had music on Paris and it was packed. So I think that there is room for both of us to celebrate the 4th of July, even if there's an overlap in time. I see that we avoided that here, but just for future reference. And again, I am supportive of this. Thank you.
We just want to be supportive of our neighbors as well. And the music festival wasn't our event. It was a private,
I understand.
yeah, so.
All right, I'm gonna call the question. All in favor of the request to host this 4th of July celebration, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you, Jennifer. Next, we have a request from Historic Beaufort Foundation for the use of Henry C. Chambers Waterfront Park on Wednesday, July 1st, 2026, from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. for Putting Down the Roots of Liberty event.
Second.
Motion and second. Jennifer, you want to?
Yes, so, well, I have Lise here as well. We're requesting to use Waterfront Park to, actually, the event starts at 2. We're starting to set up at noon to 4, so we have plenty of time for a symbolic planting of
Liberty.
It's a sapling of the
so I
Liberty.
can't remember what tree it was. So, Liberty Tree. And with Mr. Benjamin Franklin, we have a reenactor coming from Williamsburg again? No, this one's coming. Chautauqua Institute.
Nice little pass off there.
Hello, how are y'all this evening? Very excited to be partnering with the City of Beaufort and the Beaufort County 250th on this event. And this is originally started out as in celebration of Carolina Days, but it blends perfectly with what's happening with the 4th of July and July 3rd in the City of Beaufort and throughout the county. What is happening is, thanks to the Beaufort County 250th and Ollie, we have the opportunity to have a renowned Shakespearean actor, Greg Robin Smith, from the Chautauqua Institute, who's a living history interpreter who interprets Benjamin Franklin. And how fitting to have Benjamin Franklin come when we're celebrating our liberty within this community and within this nation. As a part of that, his visit, which actually begins on June 30th, he will be at different locations throughout Beaufort County, and we will be fortunate to have him in Beaufort on Wednesday, July 1st. And with that event that we're talking about today, this event is at 2 o'clock. It is a public event in the Henry C. Chambers Waterfront Park. No fee for anyone to attend. And we will be symbolically planting a descendant of the original Liberty trees that stood for American unity during the Revolution and after the Revolution, all building from the original Liberty tree, which was an elm tree in Boston, that our colonies banded together to support, but unfortunately was chopped down by the British. And but that led to all of our colonies wanting to establish their own Liberty trees to show their unity and to show their support. So we are very fortunate to have a descendant of that Liberty tree, which on that day of July 1st, Mayor and Council, along with Mr. Greg Robin Smith as Benjamin Franklin, will do a symbolic planting of that tree in the Waterfront Park. And then Benjamin Franklin will also do a living history presentation for about 20 minutes. and he will discuss liberty and the founding fathers' fascination with botany and agriculture, which I think is really, really interesting. But it'll be a fun event. I anticipate that it'll last about an hour, but we invite the whole community to come out for this celebration. So thank you.
Thank you, Lise. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you.
Good.
Thank you, Lise.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next we have an ordinance to amend the City of Beaufort zoning map to rezone real property located at 1556 Salem Road, Beaufort County Tax map R 120029000 103E0000 from T4 neighborhood to regional mixed use RMX, and this is first reading. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. Kurt, you want to?
Okay, the purpose of this is basically zone from a residential district to a commercial district to utilize the existing Beaufort Gazette building. The current zoning doesn't allow the use, which is essentially wholesale with potential retail of that wholesale product. I think everybody knows where and I should also just mention the next two cases are just public meetings. So the public hearing was held at the Planning Commission. So, you know, you do not have to take public comment should there be any, but it's obviously up to you. But I think everybody kind of knows where this is on Salem Road. It's the old Gazette building, and we'll show some pictures of it. So you can see it right now. It's been vacant for at least 11 years or 12 years. It's starting to get in kind of a dilapidated state, I think we can all attest to right now. Currently, the zoning is T4N, but the current use is the old Gazette building. So it has 24-inch kind of floors in there because it used to handle the old printing machines. And so, but from what I understand, a lot of the building has been stripped, but it's an industrial building. And so the T4N district, as you see in your packet, I'll just summarize really quickly, is really kind of for, it's primarily intended for multifamily, I would say. And it's not really, doesn't allow retail uses. That obviously poses a problem with this, as you can see, with this current building, because to retrofit that to a residential use is probably going to be extremely difficult, especially with 24-inch floors. Just to demolish it is going to be difficult because of how sturdy it was built originally. So it's actually one of the issues is it's you know, just slightly under the floodplain of 13 feet. I think we've got that resolved. With the future land use plan, it's classified as general urban, which, you know, you can see there that, you know, it's T4N, IC, T5UC. So it doesn't technically kind of fall in the use table for RMX. But the Planning Commission and staff both felt that the RMX, which is a regional mixed use district, would be the best case scenario for this property to basically allow to be reused, because it allows basically all the retail uses and the wholesale use that the applicant is proposing. But it does limit some of the like industrial uses that could happen. So, you know, the T4N is kind of just everything to the south here. I didn't mention that. The east is in the county, that's the U-Haul Center. And then to the north is all T5UC. So just to give you, and with that, you know, the recommendation is to approve this to RMX. We think this is the most reasonable use for the land. And we think it would still be reasonable to the residential uses around it. And also, we just think it would be essentially good sustainable planning, because we'd be allowing the reuse of a building that otherwise is just going to continue to decay in the T4N district. And, you know, we're not sure why it was zoned T4N. I've asked one of our councilmen or commissioners on the PC why that was done. And, you know, I think it's just because all the areas around it were zoned for kind of the more multifamily district, but for whatever reason, they didn't consider that existing use of T4N. And because of that, it's been sitting empty the last 12 years. So again, the zoning was changed in 2017. And it's basically been sitting before that empty with no attempt to do anything that I can find in the last 12 years. And so this did receive unanimous approval at the PC on 5/18, so a little less than a month ago. So with that.
Council have any comments, questions? Okay.
So just to make sure I understand this, right now, as the building is, if we were to approve this, they would be limited to 50% of the build, to use 50% of the building because of that 13 feet flood
The
concern.
flood ordinance, yeah, that's a FEMA originated ordinance, but I believe actually they built the Gazette building high enough, so they're gonna get an elevation certificate. So when they built the building, and let me go back to the pictures, so the actual base, the actual height of the floor is over 13 feet. So that will not trigger the 50%. So that's something they have to verify, but from what I understand from the applicant who's here, that has been done.
So if we pass this evening, it's on the condition that this inspection proves that it's above the 13 feet?
Well, zoning's not conditional and the floodplain is not conditional upon anything, you know, it's for every property in the city and every property is 13 feet. And so this is just the condition of any property that's under 13 feet with this, which this is. So to basically take them out of that condition, they need to provide a floodplain or an elevation certificate showing that basically that it's above 13 feet.
So it's either all or none.
Building.
If they get the certificate, they can use 100% of the building. If they don't, they can't.
That's
use
right.
it.
Otherwise, let's say this wasn't, and it's in this floodplain, it's under 13 feet. So then, you know, they'd be restricted to 50% of the value, which is difficult, as I think one of the councilmen would know, because the price of, you know, the appraisal and the price of actual improvements right now are two drastically different things. So if you've had any work done lately, you know, it's really going to restrict the building. So
Yeah.
and that's intentional. That's FEMA's intention, is to basically bring these buildings in a floodplain, you know, basically to be upgraded and not to be reused in the future. That's the intention of the ordinance. So
I'm not against it. I just want to make sure I understand what we're voting on. I think I do.
Any other comments, questions?
Mm-hmm.
I got a comment. Oh, go ahead, Neil.
I'm good.
Oh, no comment. Okay, so this is first of two readings, so obviously we'll get another bite at this. My plan is to try to articulate some of my concerns, and then in the event that you want to answer those now, maybe we can address them. If not, then maybe they are addressed at second reading. My intent in the moment is to vote no on this at first reading, with the understanding that there's opportunity to justify or unjustify some of the concerns that I have and change that vote second reading. But so here's the concerns is right now this is T4N. And if I'm reading our code correctly and I'm reading their intent on using this space correctly, which I am in favor of repurposing old vacant buildings. And so I appreciate the applicant and the owner's effort to repurpose this building because I've long since driven by it thinking that it needs to be better utilized, obviously. But in our T4N, we allow by right offices, and we conditionally allow retail. And so I guess I would say I don't know why there would need to be a reason to upzone this property in order to use it for retail and office space. I think the path of least resistance and the most protection for the city in the future is to keep the current zone as T4N, but conditionally allow retail, and then the offices would be allowed by right. If we take the other approach that's being suggested to upzone this to RMX, now, not that it would happen, but in principle, if we were to do that, we open the property up to be utilized as a car wash or a hotel or an apartment complex or some of the things that would be prevented in T4N. So it's not that I'm opposing what the applicant is wanting to do here because it's in fact the opposite. I support what the applicant wants to do here. I just don't think that there's a need to upzone the property in order to achieve that. And so those are the reasons for why I feel like the appropriate path for me tonight is to vote against this. Obviously, if I'm wrong on some of those reasons and you clarify that before we get to second reading, I could reconsider that position, but that is my synopsis on this.
Is there a reason for?
Yeah, when you look at the retail, it actually is conditioned upon the retail overlay district, which is a very defined space like Charles Street and Carteret Street only. And so I think that was done because there's a lot of T4N in the historic district, but it doesn't allow retail anywhere else. So only in the retail.
In our
overlay
table of
in the-
permitting, where it says, you know, your T4N and it has retail conditional, it doesn't provide the additional information that it's only pertaining to the overlay district. Are you saying that's further in?
It actually references like offhand, I don't have it in my head, but it's like 3.6, which is the commercial district, 3.6 something, where it states it only in the retail overlay district.
Okay, and you're saying that there is no way for this to be zoned T4N and for a conditional improvement to be provided that would allow for the retail that the applicant is wanting to utilize the property for?
You'd have to change the code to expand the retail to, basically expand the conditional use to beyond the retail overlay district. Does that make sense?
It does.
Right now it's limited to basically just a few streets in the whole city and for any T4M property. So you'd have to do a code amendment to, allow it for, I guess, really.
Originally, the T4N was intended, the overlay was intended only to be in commercial corridors within the T4N districts. And so they set specific commercial overlays, which only covered Charles, Bladen,
And
Carteret, and because the rest was in general commercial or higher zone areas. So none of the areas out here would have ever been in a commercial, would have ever been in a quarter overlay for that, for a T4N, because it was all, at that point, it was intended to be residential, and the uses that had there, I don't even think Gazette building would have been conforming.
No, it would be considered light industrial under our code, so it would have not.
When we did the comprehensive plan
allowed.
and did the Beaufort code, we didn't change a lot of those districts as far as the residential, even though the T4 allows multifamily though. T4 does. So, I mean, that wouldn't be a difference in the zoning for that. They could do a multifamily here just as they have at Garden Oaks, which was T4. So.
Right, well, and the T4N property that's adjacent to this is right now listed for sale, and it is definitely a multifamily development. I'm not sure how many units, maybe 150 or somewhere in that realm, but it certainly is planned to be a pretty dense residentially developed lot. And my concern again here is not necessarily with this applicant, but if something changes, now you've opened yourself up to a slew of other things that you may not be in favor of, especially on a road that is very congested already with a lot more congestion to come. And it would be development that's allowed by right. That is my concern. I appreciate your further explanation. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hold to my no vote tonight, and I'm going to do a little bit more research on my end to become more familiar. And then perhaps I would change that position at second reading. But again, my vote is due to the concerns beyond what this property could become.
Comments? All right, I'm gonna call the question. All in favor of the ordinance to amend the zoning map to rezone this property at 1556 Salem Road from T4N neighborhood to regional mixed use? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Righty. Next, we have an ordinance to amend the City of Beaufort zoning district map to rezone real property identified as 909 Church Street, Beaufort County Tax Map number R120004000275 from T4 neighborhood to T4 Historic Neighborhood District.
So moved.
Second.
A second, okay.
Okay, this one is, I think, a little simpler, but the purpose of this is to basically, and this has actually been, the staff is bringing this forward for the applicant. When they came into the city, I guess, about 6 months ago, with this property, I guess the owner had bought it, purchased it, not too long ago. Basically, they wanted to put a new house on it. And maybe an accessory dwelling unit. It was immediately caught by my staff that this property is basically between two zoning districts. So if you see on your map, what's highlighted is the rectangle. Part of the property is in T4N and part of the property is T4HN. And so the old, I think it's a Puckett's store. Is there a Pickett's?
Pruitt's.
Pruitt's. No, it was a P. Was to the north of it. And this lot was basically part of that general store. For whatever reason, like 5-6 years ago, it was consolidated to this lot. And the staff at the time missed when they consolidated the plat, and it was in two separate zoning districts, and that's not allowed legally. You're supposed to have kind of the same zoning district for a lot. And so this is cleaning it up. And that's kind of the explanation here. So yeah, it was 2019 that subdivision plat was approved. And you can kind of see it now. It's between those two zoning districts. Talking to the applicant, and here it is. So you can kind of see the store and kind of what it looked like. And now right now it's just a vacant lot. So you can see that on that kind of southwest corner picture there. That's what it looks like right now. So I think the applicant's just wanting to resolve this. And here were the plats in question where you can see where this mistake was made. Basically, the applicant agreed with staff's opinion that, if we're looking at the context of the neighborhood, this was really the only lot that was zoned T4N, and the reason for it was because it was the general store. And so the rest of the lots around it were T4HN, and the applicants agree that T4HN is fine with her. She's just planning to build a house. It really doesn't change, single family houses are allowed in both districts. But we think that it would, based on the zoning code and the development code, that this is appropriate in the surrounding area. And it was also approved unanimously at the April, kind of try to combine both of these together, Planning Commission meeting, April 20th, to rezone it to T4HN. So,
good. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of this request to change from T4N to T4HN, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you, Kurt. Okay, next we have a resolution recognizing the Waterfront Advisory Committee recommendation and expressing support for advancing option 2 for the Henry C. Chambers Preserving the Promenade Project.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Eric, you want to brief the
Absolutely.
public?
Mayor,
on this?
members of council, this resolution reflects that the Waterfront Advisory Committee unanimously recommends option 2 as the city's preferred alternative for replacing the failing relieving platform at Henry C. Chambers Waterfront Park. Option 2 would reduce the existing structure with a new elevated platform supported by stronger piles while generally maintaining the existing footprint and character of the waterfront promenade. The design would raise the promenade and incorporate resiliency measures to address current and anticipated tide levels. The preliminary cost estimates for option 2 is approximately $66 million, compared with $81 million for repairing the existing platform and $121 million for constructing a new bulkhead and backfill. Approval of the resolution would allow staff to proceed with an RFQ, so request for qualifications for engineering services, full design, permitting, final cost estimating, public communication, and development of funding strategy. Any future contracts, construction contracts, or design contracts, construction contracts, funding agreements, and major milestones would return to City Council for your approval. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
You have a comment?
comment?
I just want to thank Councilman Scaletti for his work on the Waterfront Advisory Committee.
Thank you for that.
Appreciate it. Yeah, no, I concur. A lot of work was put in. I'm glad we finally moving forward on this. When would the RFQ go out?
Anticipated to go out, so based upon your vote this evening, we would begin working on it. So realistically, sometime in July for an advertisement, that would come back to you all. My guess would be the end of August, early September.
Okay, and permitting would begin.
Well, so it's kind of sequential. They need to get started somewhat on the design before they can work their way into permitting. We would break the design down into 30, 60, 90, 100% plans so that we would have these milestones along the way. And those milestones would include, looking for grant opportunities, starting permitting, just to be able to get us from start to completion. There's going to be a little bit of a quiet period because we're kind of we'll be in that boring engineering, design, and permitting phase.
Right.
That's why we really want to break that down. Number one, from a funding perspective, but number two, to also come back to you all as well as Waterfront Advisory Committee and give regular updates.
Any other
One of the
comments?
things I'll just say too, in tying into that, what we discussed at the Waterfront Advisory Committee meeting was building into the RFQ very clear expectations of when we expect to see those deliverables, 30%, 60%, 90%, so that we know that we're hitting those checkpoints and we're being very clear from the start as the RFQ goes out that we want to see this done. This is a priority for us, and these are the timelines that we expect to have these checkpoints hit. I would argue that we could have a financial consequence attached to that. If you don't have it done by this time, this is the consequence for that. Regardless, we did have that conversation, so they expect to see that in the RFQ. And then I will also say, I don't see it in here, but just so council is aware, the WAC is willing to be a part of exploring the funding opportunities that may exist. If staff or really if staff finds value in those discussions or the efforts that come from that body in regards to it, just so council knows, I think that would be an expansion of the current scope, but the committee is willing to do that should that be something that council would want them to do.
Okay, thank you for that. Well, let's go ahead. I'm going to call for a vote on this. All in favor of the resolution recognizing the Waterfront Advisory Committee, recognizing the move support on option 2, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. It's marching orders now.
Very good.
Next one is authorization to allow the city manager to enter into a contractual agreement for the Duke Street Streetscape project.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Again, Eric.
Mayor, members of council, thank you again. The much anticipated Duke Street Streetscape project. The city received 2 bids for the project following publicly advertised procurement process. The project includes streetscape improvements, water system work, utility removal and replacement from Hamar Street to Bladen Street. Funding includes approximately $655,000 from general fund, approximately $750 in ARPA funding, and $428,000 in utility relocation funds from BJWSA. After review of the bids, contractor qualifications, and each firm's workload, the selection committee recommends awarding the contract to JH Hires Construction as the lowest responsive bidder. JH Hires' bid price for the streetscape work is approximately $1.28 million compared to approximately $1.30 million for Gulfstream Construction. Council is being asked to authorize the city manager to finalize and execute the construction contract with JH Hires. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for?
Just one quick one. I didn't see anywhere in there, and maybe it's common practice that it's not in there, but in regards to communicating to the residents that are going to be impacted by this construction and in keeping with some of the lessons that we've learned on the projects that we have going on now, noting that it is not part of this agreement that any party is responsible for communicating to those residents, do we have a plan for how we're going to make sure that they can plan around this as it starts to evolve.
Yeah, certainly. That is something that we will work forward with our new PIO manager, as well as the contractor. The contractor has done an excellent job with the King Street project as far as notifying residents of upcoming impacts from construction activity. So the same thing will happen here, but we're also happy to meet with residents ahead of the project, just so that they can anticipate any kind of impacts that they may experience during the project.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of the authorization to allow the city manager to enter into a contractual agreement for Duke Street streetscape project, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, next is an authorization to allow the city manager to enter into a contractual agreement for real estate brokerage services. Do I have a motion to authorize?
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Alan, you want to?
Yeah, the city issued a request for proposal for qualified commercial real estate agents to provide brokerage services for the purchase and sale of city-owned properties. In July 2025, the city solicited RFP, and then the city received 5 proposals that were opened back in August. You'll see the 5 that were listed. And June 1st, the selection committee consisted of Eric Clausen, Linda Roper, and Sandra Rice met to review their independent evaluations of the proposals. And all the agents have sufficient commercial real estate experience and similar commission rates. The committee scored Robert T. Jones Jr. the highest based on his experience representing the city of Hardyville, land acquisition and sales, the town of Hilton Head, conservation, land acquisitions, and collaborating with other local municipalities. The committee is unanimous in recommending Robert T. Jones Jr. to represent the city in commercial real estate transactions. Happy to answer questions you may have.
Okay, council, any questions?
Yes. So on the contract, I'm on page 375. It looks like there may be some need for tightening up the language here. If you look at 4.1.4, for the purchase/sale of vacant land where the seller and purchaser are both represented by the consultants, a commission equal to 7% of the purchase sale price paid to the consultant. If you move down a little bit and you look at 4.2.2, it says essentially the same thing, but with a different percentage. For the purchase sale of vacant land where the seller and purchaser are both represented by the consultant, a commission equal to 6% of the purchase price paid to the consultant. I'm not sure if maybe there was a merging of two.
Yeah.
But it looks like there's overlap there. It looks like there's overlap in 4.1 and 4.2. They essentially say the same thing with a little bit of different language. So it's not that I have any issue with this or the selection that they chose, but just maybe go back and clean up that contract to where it's clear and all parties can understand what to expect.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, I think we'll make those adjustments. We were going back with a couple of the draft versions with our city attorney, and we might have kind of duplicated a couple of those items, or we need to clarify some of that.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? For Alan? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of the authorization to allow the city manager to enter into a contractual agreement for real estate brokerage services, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, Alan. Thank you. All right, next we have appointments, reappointments to boards, commissions, and committees. First up, I guess, is the cultural.
Yes, sir.
Advisor.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to appoint to the Cultural District Advisory Board Mitzi McClure and Mary Lurie. They would be for 3-year terms expiring on June 30th of 2029.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
That was my motion. You just have a
Second.
Second.
I'm sorry. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Mayor, I'd like to propose appointment to the Historic District Review Board of Eric Berman and Richard Drake. They also will be 3-year terms expiring on June 30th of 2029.
do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. To the Military Enhancement Committee, a reappointment of Terry Maud, also for a 3-year term expiring on June 30th, 2029.
Second.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
To the Planning Commission, I'd like to propose Bill Bardenwerper be reappointed for a 3-year term expiring on June 30th of 2029.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
To the Tourism District Advisory Board, TDAC, 3 members, Randy Novick, Lily Moss, and Suzanne Rom, for 3-year terms expiring on June 30th, 2029.
Second.
Okay, have a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
To the Zoning Board of Appeals, Zach Graber, for a 3-year term expiring June 30th of 2029.
Second.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And to the Downtown Advisory Board, adding 3 additional members, Reese Vazikas, Charlotte Lawrence, and Brenda Litchfield.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 That it?
That's it.
All righty, next is consideration of adjustment to city manager compensation.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. Any discussion?
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that we give a 5% increase in salary.
Okay.
Second.
Any you got
You need a
second?
second for that?
I'm just, real quick, guys.
Get a second on it first.
Didn't you just get one? Sorry.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
You
I'm sorry.
seconded, didn't you?
I did.
Okay.
So you're saying 5%.
Yes, sir.
Now we do other employees based on, or the city does anyway, a 2% merit, right? So I guess I would just ask for a little bit of verbal clarification up here as to where the 5% number is coming from.
Well, you got cost of living and merit.
Okay, so you're adding 3% for cost of living and 2% for merit.
Any other discussion? This is it's amendment on the floor, or not an amendment, it's a motion.
Motion.
Okay. We have a second. So any more discussion on the 5%? Okay, hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Ayes have it. All right. Next, we move to reports. City manager's report.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. I would like to thank Mayor and Council for 2 things tonight. One, for your cooperation with staff and all the work and the diligence that you put into the FY27 budget. I remain confident that the budget that you have approved is the right one to move the city forward, to advance your priorities, and to keep us on track and being responsible stewards of taxpayer dollars. I would also like to thank council for your vote for the compensation increase. That is greatly appreciated by myself and my family. And it makes me feel appreciated for the work that I do here for the city. So thank you very much for that. I'm happy to report that the King Street Drainage Project is nearer to completion. I keep getting told by Eric and the rest of the capital project staff that will be done by 1 July. So I'm holding them to that. The Charles Craven Drainage Project continues to make steady progress thanks to some tremendous cooperation from our partners at the South Carolina Office of Resilience and from Beaufort Jasper Water Sewer Authority. Just a reminder that there is a council work session on June 23rd at 5 p.m. The expected topics for the discussion so far include an update on the home repair assistance program that will be provided by the Beaufort Jasper Housing Authority, and a U.S. Army Corps of Engineers discussion of a federal interest determination process that will figure out if Beaufort's a prime candidate for a coastal storm flood risk reduction feasibility study. That's a mouthful, I realize. And also possible interviews for various boards, commissions, or committees. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for the city manager? Okay, hearing none. Thanks, Scott. For the mayor's report, basically the usual meetings in NERPIC, Beaufort County Economic Development Corporation, Soloco, and the mayor manager's meeting. Attended the change of command at Paris Island. Last month, also the Washington Park ribbon cutting and marker unveiling. Attended the Gullah Festival opening. Also the Masters Corp ribbon cutting that was held out at the Beaufort Commerce Park. Attended the Memorial Day Parade and the ceremony following at the cemetery, and also the First South Carolina Volunteer of African Descent marker unveiling in the new proposed park. Attended the HBF annual meeting and the downtown master plan meeting, and did an interview this past week with Now We Know. That's the CNBC show that stars Steve Gutenberg. They did an interview, and our PIO was there as well, and we got some great footage, very good footage. Also handed out trophies along with Pete Palmer in the Beaufort River Swim and Run that was held this past Saturday. And they had Chamber of Commerce weather. It was perfect for that swim. Perfect tide, incoming tide, so they didn't have to fight against it. That's all I have. Start on my right with Councilman Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I just want to remind everyone that on the 20th of June, Saturday, 2 Saturdays from now, the Unity in the Community third annual event will take place at the Charles Lynn Brown Community Center. And the event will all take place in the parking lot because the renovation of the facility is not complete. We had hoped to have kind of some sort of a ceremony connected with all the work that the county has done on that facility, combined with the Unity in the Community event, but the facility is not ready for that. Also, I want to thank Chief Price and all of our police officers for volunteering to provide hot dogs and hamburgers for that event. I've had some of those hot dogs and hamburgers, and I'll have some more on the 20th, so stand by. I too supported the Memorial Day events, parade, and the events at the cemetery, which I thought went very well. And also want to thank Rob Montgomery and the board of HBF and Lisa Sundria, their executive director, for all they did to support the moving of the sign, of the marker, I should say, from its then location in front of the National Cemetery to its current location at the site of the First South Carolina Volunteer Park. Also want to give a special shout out to Ms. Sundria, because she did a very good job, I thought, doing the television interviews of sharing with the 3 stations. I think all the local stations from Savannah were there. And I know that Danielle had a lot to do with that, so I want to thank you too, Danielle. Yeah, I think that's all I have. Thank you, sir.
I attended a number of the events, and there's no reason to repeat all of those. More importantly, probably at the last meeting that we had last Friday, we had action requiring some updates to the TIP and to the STIP, the state transportation packages, that we actually have to identify projects that are going on for grant purposes in many cases, and also for MPO requirements according to what the project entails. So the Low Country Regional Transportation Study is updating the long-range plan, which is currently on our website for a survey if you have comments to make. And there will also be 2 opportunities for in-person survey and conversation about improvements to the long-range transportation study plan for the Beaufort County region, which includes both south and the north of the Broad.
Okay. Councilman Scalati.
Yep, I'm gonna be quick in my updates, but I'll say, in regards to some of the comments that we've heard, I'm just trying to put a little bit of thought into who we are as representatives and what we expect from our city manager and staff. I obviously voted in favor of a raise, but it does not come without concerns. So some of the concerns I've articulated previously, one in regards to the budget specifically, is the TIF funds. We were at first reading fixing to approve expending all of those monies. And it wasn't until an amendment was made to recommit some of those, a portion of those to the waterfront development, that an investigation was done to determine whether or not we even could spend that money. I would like to see that level of investigation prior to, so that we know upfront what we can and cannot do, and not get ourselves in those situations. So at any rate, there are a number of concerns that I have had. I've expressed those to Scott and to council. But I think it's fair that we throw ourselves into that mix as well as council members. And I would not be opposed at all to having a work session that was more dedicated to having an evaluation or review, or getting public criticism or compliments on what we have done or what we could do better. I think it would show a willingness to be open to that. And so I would encourage council to move in the direction of establishing a work session that was provided opportunity for the public to weigh in on those conversations. On May 18th through the 20th, I had the opportunity to travel to DC. The mayor passed along that invitation to council. I was one that had the opportunity to go. And what we discussed was much needed reform to the FEMA Act. And it also provided me the opportunity to meet with Lindsey Graham's office, Nancy Mace's office, Tim Scott's office, and lobby for funding for the waterfront redevelopment. Conversations were very good, and it was a great opportunity overall. May 25th, I was able to attend the Memorial Day Parade. My son was able to come with me, and he thoroughly enjoyed that. Sorry, my daughter actually attended this one with me, not my son. My son will be on the next one. But
I'm gonna say, did we change the sex of
yeah,
this
no,
child?
no, we didn't. No, we didn't. She attended and she loved it. So at any rate, thank council for allowing her to be on the float. May 26th, I attended the Soloco meeting. The highlight of the presentations for me was the transportation sales tax that we can expect to see on the referendum. For those that haven't been following that, what's being proposed is an 8-year, $780 million collection. 326 million would be spent on safety and intersection improvements. 205 million would be spent on widening projects. 249 million would be spent on resurfacing and dirt road paving. If you want to look more into the details of what those projects are that's being proposed, you can go to BeaufortCountyPenny.com and look into that. I will also note that the county had an ethics commission member come and explain to them when you can and cannot advocate or oppose referendums. And I think that it's important that we are familiar with that as well, because if you remember 2 years back, it was basically stated that as an elected representative, you could not advocate for or against. You could just provide neutral knowledge as to what is being presented. That is actually not the case. What is the case is that you can advocate for or against the referendum on your own time. You cannot use government resources, i.e. phones, printers, computers, in order to advocate for or against, but on your own time, you can do so. And so at any rate, that's what came out of their meeting, and I just wanted to bring that up so that we are aware as well. May 28th, I was able to attend the Beaufort County Awareness Group, and I just try to attend monthly and provide them an update on what we're doing in the city. I'm very thankful for our PD, who also attends monthly and provides them an update in regards to things that they're doing, initiatives that they've deployed, calls throughout that month. And there's really good reception, but it also provides the opportunity to correct any misinformation that may be out there as well. On June 2nd and June 3rd, I was able to attend the Downtown Master Plan in the Dolphin Room of the Best Western, where we discussed the framework of what the conversations could look like. I'm excited to see that body come together and to see the conversation unfold. And hopefully in a couple months, a year, we'll have a defined downtown master plan. So with that, I just want to thank everybody for being here tonight and for staying. It's been a long night.
Okay, I'm gonna be very brief. About 75% of the things you did, I was right there also. The one thing you didn't mention was First Friday. I was down there for First Friday, and I just want to thank Linda and her crew, Sarah and Jennifer. Y'all did a great job. The turnout was great. If you weren't there, you missed it. Anyway, the theme was a luau. So I can make all kinds of jokes about that, but I'm not going to do it here. I get myself in trouble.
Dress properly?
I get in trouble with that one.
Dress properly?
You did not.
No,
You did not dress properly.
no, I did not dress properly. But I was given a lei when I got there.
Okay.
As a lei, as in a one that goes around the neck. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I told you I'd get in trouble. Anyway, y'all did a great job, Linda. Thank you, as always. And at this time, I want to make a motion to go in executive session pursuant to Title 30, Chapter 4, Section 70A1 of the South Carolina Code of Law, discussion regarding citizens appointed by City Council, boards, commissions, and committee, Beaufort Jasper Water Sewer Authority Board of Directors. And pursuant to Title 30, Chapter 4, Section 70A2 of the South Carolina Code of Law, discussion of negotiations, incidents to propose contractual agreements, and proposed sale or purchase of property, the receipt of legal advice where the legal advice relates to a pending, threatening, or potential claim or other matters covered by attorney-client privilege, settlement of legal claims, or the position of the public agency and other adversary positions or situations involving the assertion against the agency of a claim, the Ladies Island Fire District contract.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, we're going into executive session.